What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach Show. Glad to have you here with me. I really appreciate it. And, once again on the agenda tonight, we're going to be talking about one Jakob Poeltl. Yes, that is the man that we are going to be paying attention to tonight. Strictly on Jakob Poeltl. Because, when I titled this episode, I called it the Jakob Poeltl dilemma. The Raptors, they got some things to figure out here. Let me make sure this is on silent. I don't want to be disturbed here. All right. They got some things to figure out when it comes to one Jakob Poeltl. So, we're going to talk about his contract a little bit. What do you do with it? Can you get rid of it? Do you attach assets to it? You might have to just eat it, keep it. We're going to look at the market for centers right now. Can he upgrade his game? We're going to look at a whole bunch of different things. And then at the end of the episode, I might try to sell you something that you don't actually want. I'm going to put it out there on Front Street because we may not have a choice. I repeat, I'm probably going to try to sell you on something that you don't want. And we'll see how good of a salesman I actually am. Might be a bad one. Might be a good one. So we'll see. What's up, Mike? Says Superfan Mo official. What is going on, Mo? Could I get your comments up there? Yes, you're the only one here right now, Mo. So listen, I'm going to start here. First of all, we all know about Jakob Poeltl's deal. We've been talking about it all season, especially because he really did not have a good season. He was injured with a pretty significant back injury for most of the season. This year, Jakob Poeltl did average 10.7 rebounds, 2 assists on 70% from the field in 46 games. What's going on, Trouty? And he just did not look great because of that back. Now, I will say this, and I'm going to start here, right? Jakob Poeltl signed $104 million deal in July of 2025, right? So he has a 3-year deal. He opts into his last year on his current deal. So he got 4 years left at $104 million. Now, looking at that deal, considering how he played this season, clearly a lot of people are not happy about it. That is obvious, right? Clearly people are not happy about it. But I will say this. At the time when he signed this contract, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he was ever worth this type of deal. But at the time when he signed this contract, he was averaging 14.5 points, 9.6 rebounds, 2.8 assists. And that was in 57 games from the season prior. So he did look a lot better at that time. But still, do you sign him to a deal that significant? I would say no. But I'll say this at the same time. Shout out to Jakob Poeltl for signing that deal immediately as soon as he hit the table. I'm pretty sure it went something like this. I'm Bobby Webster. Well, Jakob, this is the deal we got here for you on the table. I'm going to put it down here. And Jakob Poeltl signed it immediately. Okay? Listen, I don't blame him for that. Why the hell would you not take the money? Why the hell would you not take the money? His agent is fantastic. You got to give him mad props for signing that. He absolutely swindled everyone. Congratulations. And listen, this isn't I want to put this out here. This is not a Jakob Poeltl slander podcast right now. I actually like Jakob Poeltl a lot. I like his motor. I like his defensive ability, his rebounding ability, when he has a good back, that is. When he has a good back. That's going to be the biggest thing for Jakob Poeltl this offseason and other things as well. And I do want to talk. Trouty's laughing at that. But it is true. It is true. And listen, I'll say this. The one person that you can't be upset with as of right now is Jakob Poeltl. You cannot be upset at Jakob Poeltl. Why? Because from all the information that I have gathered, At nowhere in time did it ever say that Jakob Poeltl walked into the negotiating room with a pistol, pointed it at Bobby Webster, and said, "Give me that money or it's going to be over for you." To my knowledge, that did not happen. They offered him the money, damn it, and he took it. So if there's anybody you want to point frustration at, it definitely is not one Jakob Poeltl. Bobby Webster, on the other hand, if you want to point it there, then go right ahead. And listen, Bobby Webster knows he messed up here. That's completely okay. Now, how you turn this thing around is the other question, right? And I'm not willing to write him off yet. This is the first season we're really going to get to see what he can do completely on his own when it comes to the draft and re-signing guys, trading guys, whatever the case may be. This is the first time we're really going to see him do everything without the advice, right, of one Masai Ujiri. So to me, this is going to be interesting what we see here from Bobby Webster. And I'll say this. The back injury obviously is significant, but can Jakob Poeltl improve his game? That's what we're going to speak about in the end. That's what I'm going to try to sell you on. If it'll work, I don't know, but I'm going to try because we may not have a choice. If you go into a situation where you do not have the choice, you have to make the best of what you have. You have to make the best of what you have. And so I'm going to list some other players out there that are centers that made some adjustments to their games down the stretch, because I'm starting to wonder, when you have no choice and you're playing Jakob Poeltl, if he can possibly somehow, maybe not to the full extent of some of these other guys that I'm going to mention, but can he somehow make some changes to his game that will show significant improvement and kind of change the way that the Raptors offense kind of looks. And we'll get into that in just a little bit, but I do want to start here. What do you do with him? Do you move this thing? Do you keep it? Because seriously, and I see your comments coming in, and I'm going to get to them in a little bit later. But in order to move this contract from Jakob Poeltl, you're going to have to add draft capital, and that's the big issue. Because we're not sure, at least I'm not sure, and I know a lot of you aren't either. You don't want to give up that draft capital. You want those draft picks. You want those draft picks. And I know we're not in the top 10 like we were last season, but your top 20, you still got the 19th pick. And some of you saw my last episode. I'm sure some of you didn't. And even if you didn't see my last episode, but you've been seeing a whole bunch of other episodes that are talking about guys in this draft, we're saying, it's a fantastic draft. It's a deep draft. Listen, I'm not going to say go out here and say it's as deep as everybody it's saying it is. But you got a draft pick in the first round. You got to hit on that. There are going to be players there who are available that are going to be ready to make an impact. That I can assure you. There are going to be players who are there, who are going to be ready to play now. You saw them hit on Colin Murray Boyles last year. You seen them hit on Jacoby Walter, Shed, and a whole bunch of other players, okay? Those are guys that I'm going to mention because they're recent. But the top 20 pick, this 19th pick, you can hit on that. We talked about a whole bunch of guys. We talked about Cameron Carr, Chris Sinek Jr. We talked about, I didn't talk about Ibuka Okori, but he's a name there. Alan Graves, Dalen Swain. We talked about Bennett Sturts. There's a bunch of guys, Morez Johnson Jr., Quaintance, a whole bunch of Steinbach. There's a bunch of people here. And I know some of them are going to move up the rankings here because they've had some strong showings, one or two of these guys at the combine. And so the reason that I'm talking about this is because I'm talking about this Jakob Poeltl. In order to move him, you got to add a draft pick. You don't necessarily want to have to do that if you can land a change maker and implement him into your team in a few months. Or do you add a promising young player that's not a draft pick and attach him to Jakob Poeltl in order to make a move that way? And guess what? A lot of you, including me, aren't going to want to do that either. Or do you trade Jakob Poeltl's contract for another horrific contract? That's another option that's on the table. Or do you keep him? You rehab him heavily. You switch some things up in the way that he's training, which I will get to, and his workouts in the off season. And do you hope that he has a strong start to the 2026-2027 season and hope for the best there? And we will talk about that in just a little bit. Now, I do want to get to this, and I'm going to share my screen with you because there are some things that I want you to see, because we were talking about, obviously, Jakob Poeltl's contract. So we want to show you this, or I want to show you this, I should say. 2026-2027 deal, $19.5 million, all right, for one Jakob Poeltl. Then after that, his deal kicks in for the next 3 seasons at 27, 29, 27 in these deals, right? And so once again, immediately, as soon as you see this, you start asking yourself right away, seriously, because, and I've asked this question many times, what was Bobby Webster thinking when he did this? Don't get me wrong, and I completely understand that he was playing a lot better at the time. Hindsight is 2020, so I'll cut in some slack there. But I mean, damn, seriously, you're gonna have to clean this up. You're gonna have to clean this up. Giovanni says, Mike, they're stuck with Jakob Poeltl unless you attach 2 unprotected picks for a team to eat his contract. Then it's more first, if anything, good coming back. Damn. And I'll get to some more. I'll get to more of your stuff later on. But that's the thinking, and that's exactly why we're talking about this right now. Because Giovanni brings up that point. That's exactly what we're talking about. Is it worth giving up that draft capital? I don't want to give up the draft capital. I don't. Especially because the Raptors have shown a history in being able to hit on these picks. And so I don't want to do that. But now you're looking at the money here. You're looking at the books. And these are the numbers that we've been dealt at this point for the Raptors. So significant money going out to Jakob Poeltl. And if you're giving this kind of money for a player that's going to be averaging 10 points and 7 rebounds, although it was on a bad back, you have problems for next season. I'm going to tell you that now. Now, I'm assuming when Jakob Poeltl is healthy and he is not lingering with that horrific back injury, he is going to look better. He's going to look better. He's going to look better. That's what I am assuming here. Okay. But I mean, it's tough. It's really, really tough. And we'll go here. I'm going to share my screen with you again on something else. Look at some of these deals here. All right. And we'll start it from the top. we're looking at the highest. These are all centers that we're looking at here. Okay. And Jakob Poeltl is, where is he? Right here, 15th highest paid center going into next season at $19.5 million. Now, when you look at the names above him, Jokic, Anthony Davis, Embiid, Towns, Bam, Chet, Gobert, Sengun, Hartenstein, Allen, Miles, Reed, Nick Claxton, Zubac. And then you're looking at the names behind him as well, right? So some of the guys who are getting paid less than him for next season, you're looking at Wendell Carter Jr., Gafford, Aldama, Wemby, Okonkwo, Isaiah Stewart, Steven Adams, Cornette, Valanciunas, Lopez, Ayton, Looney, Jalen Williams, Bitadze, Clinigan, Lively, Capella, Edey, Malowak, Sharp, Daron Sharp, Horford, Paul Reed. You're looking at some of these names. Khalil Ware, Yang Anson, Yves Messi, Garza. You can make any conclusion you want to make at this point. But I'm showing you the names that are in front of Jakob Poeltl in terms of salary, who are making more than him, and the names that you see behind him. And that is for next season. If you go along to this following season after that, 2027, 2028, you have Jakob Poeltl at 11th in salary. At $27 million, you have him pretty much there with Miles Turner. Jared Allen will be ahead of him, but in back of him, you see Naz Reid, Zubac, Claxton, Wendell Carter Jr., Gafford, Aldama, Okonkwo, Isaiah Stewart, Adams, Cornette. And then you see there's a significant drop off when it comes to the money as soon as you start getting to pretty much right after Naz Reid, Zubac and down. And I'll take a look at one more season after that just to see what that is looking like, where he's at 6 at almost $30 million. Only Jared Allen, Sengun, Holmgren, Adebayo, and Embiid. And yes, you will have other players as well, obviously, like the Joker and stuff when he renegotiates his deal. But I mean, wow, you're getting paid as a top 6, 7, 8 center at that point. That's what I'm talking about here. So we're looking at those numbers, and when you're looking at the numbers, a lot of those guys are playing significantly better at this point. Now, once again, I do have to mention, yes, he did have a bad back, but what are we coming into at this point when we look at the season ahead? That's what you also have to take into consideration. Now, I do want to ask, would you want to move one of your older veteran pieces instead of a younger piece in order to move a Jakob Poeltl? Now, what if you have to move him in a deal that has to involve a Barrett or a Quickly or an Ingram? What do you think about that type of situation? Would you want to do something like that? I'm not suggesting that. I'm asking you guys if you would want something like that as well, right? Because at this point, the way that it's situated for the Raptors right now is that they're going to have to look for flexibility. And so I'm sure that all options at this point are going to have to be on the table. Right? All options are going to have to be on the table. They're going to have to try to make some things happen here. I mean, we're looking at some of these names over and over, and you see the numbers here of what some of these guys are putting up on average. And listen, I'm not saying that Jakob Poeltl has to go out there and give you 20 and 10. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm expecting him to play better next season after getting some rest and healing that back. But you got to give us more than 10-7. I don't know if he'll get back to the point where he's going to be giving you 14 and a half points and 9.6 rebounds and almost 3 assists a game. I don't know if he's going to get to that standpoint because, and to be completely honest with you, I don't think he'll probably get to that standpoint because Colin Murray-Boyles a lot of the time is going to be eating into his minutes unless something significant changes and you're going to be playing Murray-Boyles and Scotty Barnes at the same time, which is a possibility. I don't know what the cards hold for next season, but there is that realm of possibility where you may be looking at Colin Murray-Boyles starting for you next season. Is that the case? Maybe it is. We don't know what the hell is going to happen, but I'm sure that's one of the scenarios. And so are you willing to look at trading one of your more veteran pieces? That's a question you're going to have to ask as well. And I still see your comments here. I'm going to get to them in just a few minutes. But I do want to touch on the last thing when it comes to Jakob Poeltl. And earlier in the show, remember I talked to you about selling you on Jakob Poeltl? Well, now this is where I'm going to try to sell you on Jakob Poeltl. If you have no choice and you're the Raptors, you don't want to move on from Poeltl. I'm not saying that for myself. I'm saying if you're the Raptors and you don't want to move on from Poeltl, if you don't want to trade him, or if you're in a situation where you're trying to trade him and you can't trade him, now he's on your roster for the foreseeable future. So what do you want to see from one Jakob Poeltl if he's with your team moving forward? Well, there's a few things. We've seen him when he's healthy. We know Jakob Poeltl is capable of being a good player when healthy. He's not a bum. He's not a scrub by any means. Jakob Poeltl, when healthy, can play. You want to see him be a physical player and a hustle player at all times. A physical and a hustle player at all times. Jakob Poeltl, you're about to make $19.5 million. And after that, you're going to be jumping to $27 million, over $29 million, over $27 million again. Damn it, you better be a hustle player and a physical player when you're on the court. You better be. And for God's sakes, when it comes to Jakob Poeltl this offseason getting in the lab, can you get a few post moves, please? Can you get a few post moves? At least 2 moves that you can go to on a consistent basis to try to get yourself a bucket. There are going to be times where you can't depend on Scotty Barnes or Jamal Shed or Emmanuel Quickly to spoon feed you for the entire season to get a layup, to get a dunk. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You see, this is the point now where we're getting into the show. And I mentioned to you that I like Jakob Poeltl a lot. But this is to me in the point in the show where I'm going to start getting pissed off. You've been in the NBA for a decade now. Can you work on some post moves? Please. Pretty please. Can you do that? I mean, seriously. Seriously. I mean, listen, this is the other thing. This is the other thing. For the Toronto Raptors, for anybody who's going to be in the gym with Jakob Poeltl all summer, for any trainer, coach who's going to be training with Jakob Poeltl in the summer, can you teach the guy to shoot a damn mid-range jumper, please? I mean, seriously, for God's sakes, you've been in the NBA for a decade. You see how the NBA is evolving. At what point do you, as a center who's getting paid, at what point do you look at the NBA and say, you know, maybe it would be the best for me if I can make a mid-range jump shot? I mean, you're in the NBA. You're going up against these guys that you're playing with. You're seeing a bunch of stretch bigs. Listen, I'm not even asking you to shoot threes. I'm not even doing that. Can you make a jump shot from 11 to 14 feet? 10 to 13 feet? I mean, can you do that? This is an NBA that has evolved. And you, Jakob Poeltl, who's been in the NBA, like I mentioned now, for a decade, for God's sakes, if you are a coach, a trainer, somebody who is in the lab with Jakob Poeltl in the summer, would you not go to him and think it's probably better to say to him, Jakob, I think it's time that you get a damn jump shot here? I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, damn, seriously. I'm sorry, but this is where I'm going to start getting pissed here and annoyed. We're looking at Jakob Poeltl in the playoffs being matched up against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. He's 10, 11, 12 feet away from the basket. They're completely sagged off of him underneath the hoop. Jared Allen's afro is hugging the mesh under the basket. And I did speak about a couple times him attacking the rim when they did that. But for God's sakes, can you get some type of jumper here? I mean, when you look at some of the people in the NBA that are centers, listen, I'm going to mention some guys to you. You tell me if these names are familiar. And one thing that they have in common right now at this point with the subject that we're talking about. Did you know, guys, and I wrote these names down because of the first ones that I can think of right off the bat. Jonas Valanciunas, Bam Adebayo, Brook Lopez, Al Horford, Andre Drummond. Do you know these guys are all shooting? I saw Andre Drummond shooting threes. Andre Drummond this year. Y'all remember when we drafted Jonas Valanciunas? He could not sniff a three-point shot. And he's taken and has made a few. Al Horford, Brook Lopez, these guys, they never shot threes at all. At all. And once again, I'm not asking Jakob Poeltl to do that. I'm not even going that far. I'm not asking you to shoot threes. I'm not saying that for Jakob Poeltl. But can you get a mid-range shot at least? I mean, damn, can you put some post moves together so when you have the ball and we need you to get to the basket face up, a jump hook, something on the offensive end without being spoon-fed? I mean, I think it's okay to ask for the guy that we are about to pay almost $30 million a season to for 3 seasons to be able to do something on the offensive end. I don't think that's a problem for me to do that. I mean, damn. Have I crossed the line here? Have I crossed the line? Also, can you shoot it a little bit better from free throw percentage? A little bit? I mean, listen, you got some things to prove to a lot of people at this point. You got your money. You got your money. You got some things to prove here. I'm going to get to some of your comments before I get out of here. I just want to summarize some of the things that we spoke about on this podcast. And aside from being in the chat right now, get in the comments after the show, because I answer all my comments. And so it's better that you probably get there as well as getting in the chat. I may not get to everybody in the chat, but if you get in the comments when the show's over, I will get you or respond to you there as well. So make sure that you do that. So in totality here, we're going to see what the heck happens with Jakob Poeltl and his training in the off season. We don't know what happens in terms of moving him with draft picks. If that happens, young players, or if you end up moving him with a vet, we don't know what's going to happen there. Is he worth moving? If you add those pieces, do you keep him? And like I mentioned, do you keep him and try to work on his game during the offseason? Try to get him some post moves. You try to get the guy a damn mid-range jump shot. Do something. Try to get him shooting at a higher clip from the free throw line. Every option is probably on the table at this point. Every option is at the table at this point. And so we will see what happens here. And so I will get to your comments now, and we can discuss some things. I don't need these papers anymore. Let me just get a sip here of some of this water, and we shall all chat together. All right. Let's see if I can get through them all. I did put this up earlier. What up, Mo? What is going on? I gotta drop a bomb for a lot of y'all tonight. Damn right. All right, let's get into it. Trouty, what's going on? He says, "Hey, Mike." Ash YI4TW says, "Hey, Mike." What do we got here? Trouty says, 7-footers get hurt and they're slow. Wemby is just a freak of nature. He is a freak of nature. Like, Wemby is just on a different level. We ain't ever seen anything like that. We have never seen anything like that. Like, he is just completely next level to anything that we have seen. YG7935, Yak and Grady to Washington or Memphis. They're open to taking bad salary. That's interesting. And, there are going to be a couple teams, and I'll say this, there are still some teams around the league that are going to be bad for a few years. And they're going to want to develop the talent, right? And some of the pieces that they already have currently on their teams. So with that being said, if you have a bunch of young guys, you still will need possibly a guy like Jakob Poeltl to eat salary, because you got to eat up a certain percentage of salary, right? You can't have everybody on your team on a bunch of rookie contracts and have a bunch of open salary. Guys got to eat that salary up. And so can you use a guy like Jakob Poeltl in a deal like that? Possibly so, but I guess we'll see. Giovanni says JJJ probably would have cost 6 to 7 first rounders if Yak was filler in that deal. And for those who don't know who JJJ is, Jaren Jackson Jr. is who Giovanni is talking about. Najir Ban says, keep him and use him off the bench unless it's bad for back not to start. You see, that's where things get really tricky. I don't think you're going to be able to do that, because that big ass salary that he has, you're going to have to play him and showcase him as much as you possibly can. You don't have a guy making 20 and then 30 or close to $30 million coming off your bench as your starting center, because you need to showcase him. You got to play him. You got to have other teams seeing him saying like, all right, yes, he is getting paid a lot of money, but he's showing us right now that he can score 14 points a game. He's showing us that he can get 8 rebounds. He's showing us that he can get 3 assists and a block a game. That's probably what you're hoping for next season if you're looking to move on from that contract. You don't want to be bringing him off the bench, at least in my opinion. Trouty says, Poeltl can only play half a season. If Raptors get a second center to split time, it could work, but we'll have to use a draft pick. Yep, that's what we were talking about before. That's what we're talking about before. Superfan Mo says, we are totally stuck. Yikes. Trouty says, once again, I don't see a 30-year-old center improving a lot. Well, I mean, I did tell you about some of these other guys that I just mentioned, and they're old. And older than him. Lopez, Horford, Drummond. They're older than him. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be anything like those guys. He's not going to be able to shoot threes at all like those guys can. Drummond just started doing that. And like I mentioned, when we talked about it, we're not asking him to go out there and shoot threes. We're just saying, damn it, can you make a jump shot from mid-range? You've been in the NBA for 10 years. You never thought at any point, every off season that you've gone into, you never thought at any point that maybe I should be able to shoot a jump shot here. Maybe this can help with my career, do some damage when I'm on the court. At no point ever, you've never thought about once. You never, ever. I think that's really ridiculous. Damian Dulce says, they all have more upside than Poeltl. No team will trade for him. He's a dead asset. I mean, damn. I think there's always, here's the thing. Here's one thing. There's always a team who's willing to try something. There's always a team that's willing to try something. Giovanni says, only teams likely to take Jakob Poeltl are lottery teams, and they still going to ask for 2 unprotected picks, even if RJ in there. You may not be wrong. But we'll see what happens. Giovanni again, the report at trade deadline was IQ is considered a bad contract, and they want 2 unprotected picks to eat his contract also. I mean, damn. Niraj Najir Band says CMB should be a 4 anyway. Yep, I hear that. Trouty says there's less than 40 players in the NBA at 7 foot or taller. There would be some trade interest. Gary Roberts says, we don't trade that contract and some other, we will be mid forever. Scotty needs help. Well, listen, Bobby Webster, we're going to see what he's made of. Only way a lottery teams ask for no picks for Jakob Poeltl is if Raptors attach CMB or Jakob Poeltl in the deal. RJ won't get it done. IQ will cost you 2 unprotected picks also. Gary Roberts again says, Scotty needs a switchable stretch 5. I hear that. Chris Myers, yes, and hit threes. What up, Chris? Giovanni once again says, Roach, the value RJ has is higher for Raptors than other teams. I doubt you get a top 14 protected pick for RJ, even with his good season. No, I don't disagree. Gary Roberts says, preach, brother. You must be talking about Jakob in regards to the offense, what I was talking about. Please. Spitting facts. Come on, Roach. Or come on, Coach. That post up on Merrill was complete domination. Ahmed Muhammad says, big man who can't post up getting 30 M's. Crazy. Bro, tell me about it. He deserves 9 to 15 M range. A lot of guys will be hours of the NBA. No more easy money now. More facts. The push shot goes up to 13 feet. But are we going to be able to see it consistently with that push shot? I know we have seen it, and he does have it in his repertoire. He doesn't make them enough for me. And I don't see him taking enough as well. But I do know the shot that you're taking about it. And I like that push shot. But I think he even needs more than that, especially like you mentioned. You're getting paid almost $30 million after next season. You better be able to do something for us offensively. Roach, Jakob Poeltl has no touch. He is kind of like Shaq in that they have stone hands and no feel. It's why they can't hit threes or mid-range shots and are not good free throw shooters. I mean, damn. Do something in the offseason. At least improve to a minimal standpoint. At least. Ahmed says, if Poeltl was playing in Lakers uniform, they would eat him alive. You lucky he is in Toronto. Giovanni. Jakob Poeltl is like Yusuf Nurkic. Expecting Nurk to shoot threes or mid-range shot is not realistic. It's not who they are. And I agree with you. I do agree with that. It isn't who they are. But damn it, he better do something. He better do something. Jakob Poeltl is like Nurkic making $30 million a year. He is what he is. And you know what? Yeah, it's like when I talk about these things and I talk about Jakob Poeltl being able to hit a mid-range jump shot or something like that. I'm saying that, but there hasn't been anything that indicates to me that he's going to be able to do that with the type of touch that he has. So I understand what you guys are saying when you say that. Trotty says, great research, Mike. Other guys evolved their game to meet the needs of the modern NBA. All I'm saying is this, and I agree with you here, Trouty, because here's what I'm saying, and I do agree with you. Guys do have to evolve their game at some point if they want to be able to make a different impact than they were making previously. And I'm not saying that's going to be Jakob Poeltl. What I'm saying is, damn it, if you're the Raptors at this point and you know this is not a good deal for you, how do you make it a better deal for you if you can't get him off your books? He's got to be able to evolve and adjust at some point. You just want him to come back in another year and do the same exact damn thing that we've been seeing him do for his entire career. You don't want to see him evolve at all. Are we saying that he's just not capable of doing so? I guess maybe that is what some people are saying. He's just not capable. Maybe that's just what people are saying. Entire Raps organization needs a free throw shooting coach because it's awful. It was bad this year. It really was. Jakob Poeltl making $30 million isn't his problem. It's Bobby Masai. Every time they try to speed up the timeline or have a 1-year rebuild with a trade, they effed it up. Incompetence pattern. So talk to me about what you wanted the timeline to be, Giovanni, and I'll get back to you. Get it in there as fast as you can. So when I get back, I can read it down the line so we can discuss that. Because I do have some thoughts on that. Rakib, what does that say? Rakib Green says, if he doesn't prove he's worth his contract, do they waive and stretch his contract? I don't think they're going to do that. I've thought about that as well. I thought about it as well. But I don't think they're going to do that. They ain't going to pull a Milwaukee here. Al 2, busting threes for Boston. Yep. And Golden State. Nana is in the building. Nana says, Jakob not getting traded for at least a season unless significant picks are attached. Let's just hope and pray. I'm sad when I hear about his contract, but Embiid is getting $60 million. So, oh yeah. We saw what happened to Daryl Morey. Giovanni says Messiah Bobby giving up 2 seconds to move off of Birch, a second to move off Ochai after giving up first for him, giving up a top 8 protected first for Yak, and 2 seconds, giving up 5th pick for BI. 5th pick, hindsight's 2020. Although I do understand and get what you are saying. All screw ups by Bobby and Masai, says Giovanni. Trouty is replying. Giovanni says, trying to showcase Jakob Poeltl now is like rolling dog poop and icing sugar. This guy snapped, thinking he has more value after that. Chris says, trade him for a broken AD any day of the week. Interesting. Jeremy says, let's draft Jaden Quaintance. That's an interesting one. His name has been out there on the radar. And just a few comments left. I won't take up too much more of your time. Trouty, I'm still looking at Henry Visar. That's an interesting one. I do like his game. I don't know at one point. I don't know if he's going to go super late in the first or possibly early in the second. But 7-footer can stretch the floor. Don't really know how good he is from a defensive standpoint. But Trouty, he is interesting. He is interesting. I've looked at him. Somebody teach Poeltl that James Harden mid-range floater. Chris Meyer says, where does Yak average in team rebounding last season? 7 rebounds a game. He was decent when he's out there. I don't know where he averages on the team in regards to his rebounding. It's got to be closer somewhere towards the top. That's tough. Hello. What is going on, Mia Myers? And so we're going to get out of here, but I did want to say to Giovanni with that last, with the comment you made about the rebuild, trying to speed up the timeline. I will say this in return in regards to timelines and rebuild. So one thing that we have to pay close attention to is when it comes to that stuff. And people say, why don't you just do a full rebuild? It is not up to Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster about doing full rebuilds. They do not own the team. So Rodgers owns the majority of this team now. They have to give you the permission to be able to do that. If they tell you they're your boss, if he's telling Masai Ujiri, or let's just go with Bobby Webster at this point now, if they indicate to you that you are not doing a full rebuild, we want money, we want to get into playoffs, we're trying to win, we want revenue, and you ain't tearing this thing down for us to be bad for the next 4 or 5 years. Once they indicate that to you, you cannot do it. You got to have approval. And if they don't approve you, the guys with the big bucks who own this thing, that you can do that, then you can't do it. So it's very simple. Once they go to Bobby Webster or Masai Ujiri at the time and say, we don't want you rebuilding this team. We want you to take what you have and improve on it and try to get us into the playoffs. We want revenue. Then that's what they have to do. No if, and, or buts about it. And if you're not going to do that, then they'll find somebody who will. Mike, that just means Raptors will be mid till next teardown. So be it. If they're telling you that you can't do it, what are you supposed to do? That's something, if you have an issue, that you have to bring to the ownership. I'm just giving you the reality of the situation here. You got to figure out ways for your scouts to be on point, your trading to be on points. Not giving out crazy contracts is another thing. Making sure that you're developing the talent. You strike in free agency on a player in a trade if you have to. We've seen all these things before. You got to put them all together and try to make things happen for you. You need guys who are really bright executives who know exactly what they're doing in many different ways. And then you got to try to put all these things together and make something happen. At Mike Roach 7 on IG, at Mike Roach 23 on X. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share the Mike Roach Show. We got a lot of other things that we have to talk about. I will be having another live very shortly. All right. So make sure you're checking out any past episodes that you have missed. Get at me in the comments. I will get back to you right away. Let me know some other topics that you want to speak about as well, and I will try to get to them. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. Hope to speak to you again soon. This is the Mike Roach Show, and I'm out. Enjoy your night, everyone, and enjoy the weekend.